what's up, y'all? Welcome back to my channel. If you're new to my channel, please consider subscribing for weekly automotive mechanical content for the average shade tree mechanic. Alright guys, so as you can see, I got the Needle Ridge grapplers in my garage, not mounted on my truck. If you haven't checked out the review, go ahead and check that out. I'll go ahead and post the link right there. And then I have another project going on right now. This will probably take me a couple days. There'll be a video on that, more to follow on this project. Alright guys, so in this video I'm actually going to be doing a 20,000 mile review of my truck. For those that are new to my channel, I do drive a 2018 Ram 2500 with 6.7 Cummins. April 18th was a day I actually drove it off the lot, bought it in Greensboro. But now I'm at about 21,000 miles, so I'm about 1,000 miles past the 20,000 mile mark. But this is why I'm doing the review, and I got a lot to talk about within the last 10,000 miles, more so than the entire 20,000 miles, because I have done several other reviews, 7,000 mile, what is it, a 4,000 mile, I think I did 10,000 mile. Anyways, I'll go ahead and post up one of those earlier reviews right up here, so check that one out too. Alright, so I got a lot of bullet points, points I want to get after. So just bear with me. If you don't know, I daily drive my truck, drive about 22 miles to work, 22 miles back, and then I do a bunch of other driving, obviously on the weekends. But I will drive 20 to 25,000 miles a year. So let's get straight into the review. All right, so what I've noticed is the truck is a much smoother ride, and that's specifically for the rear suspension of the truck when you have some payload in the back. I do remember I was picking up some tree stubs so that I can use them as seats around a campfire. So I did throw a bunch of them in the back of my truck. I want to say it was about 1,500 pounds because those pine tree stubs were heavy. But I fit that in the back of the cab. About 1,500 pounds of payload, and I'm telling you, every bump that I hit was super smooth. The rear suspension was compressed enough. I was actually using the truck as it should be, you know, so with that amount of payload, everything felt great. Those who don't know, I have a Thurin 2-inch leveling coil kit up in the front, so the front's pretty smooth. Now the rear does need a little bit of help. I've gotten used to it over time, especially with beefier tires. But the rear suspension is a little harsh for certain bumps and potholes in the road. You will feel it. But I've gotten used to it. But that payload really helps. So maybe a few hundred pounds in the back at all times. I know people keep sandbags back there. I'm sure that'll help the rear suspension of the truck a lot. All right, so last, I've had a recall done. I got that done for the U53. This is for the occupant restraint control module. So I took it into the dealership. Probably waited about an hour. They took care of it. They had to do an inspection, make sure my truck was under that recall. I already knew it was under that recall. They just say that to everyone. Anyway, sat through it. I think it was just an update, really, of the ECU. I think it's for the airbags. Anyways, I got that done. No issues. I know there is another recall, but that'll have to be for the next review because I was after 20,000 miles. All right, so trying to stay on track. I definitely noticed worse miles per gallon, worse fuel economy through the winter, and I think you're bound to. That's obvious. Obviously, the R6.7 Cummins, the motors, they like the hotter weather. They like being warm. They like running at around 200. So that's where you'll find your better fuel economy once it's warm. Through the winter, you know, 20 degrees, 30 degrees in the mornings. It takes maybe 5 minutes to get warmed up to operating temperature, 10 minutes, and that's if you actually get in the truck and start driving. If it's going to idle, it's going to take a while in order to get to that operating temperature so that truck's sitting really warm, really comfortable. All right, but those first 5 or 10 minutes, the truck's trying to get warm. It's really struggling to really get into its mix. I mean, it's just like us warming up before a game or a match. Once you go into it, you don't feel as loose as you should. All right, so I think I average, 14 through the winter, especially with those larger tires. So that's just one thing to keep in mind with these trucks. You will have worse miles per gallon in the winter. I think every car, it's not just this truck, but just in general. So I did install some soundproofing. That has lowered the decibels of my truck significantly. and I'll go ahead and post some links of some soundproofing videos right up here. So right now at 70 miles per hour on the highway with my Nitto Ridge grapplers, and they're pretty quiet anyways. But for our trucks to drive down the highway at 70 miles per hour, you're gonna hear some wind. You're gonna hear some engine noise. But right now my truck's at 70 decibels on average, driving at 70 miles per hour. All right, so I did a lot of soundproofing for the truck. It took me quite a bit of time, but I think it was worth it. All right, so things that I've done on the truck, and I've got quite a list, but these are more so the major items, the bigger items that I've installed on the truck ever since I've had it, specifically for the last 10,000 miles. All right, so I've installed the pedal commander. I got a video on that. That thing's awesome. I still use it today. Right now I drive it around Sport Plus +1. So not this crazy sport mode, but just the sport mode in that +1 to +3, depending on how I feel. All right, I've also installed some dash speakers, infinity type. Those are great. I've also installed 6x9s in the rear doors. Those are also really good for some better bass. I've installed the bed top cover. All right, that has no tears. The vinyl's been holding up really good with that. The leveling kit, the 2-inch Thurin leveling kit, coil kit. I do have a video on that, so if you want to check that one out after this video, I'll go ahead and post the link right there. Go ahead and check that one out. It's the entire installation how-to. There's no other video on YouTube with this generation and the setup that we have for Gen 6.7s from, I believe, 2013 through 2018. So if you're interested in that, go ahead and check that out. I love that leveling kit. It's definitely toned down the harshness of the suspension of the truck ever since installing that kit. So I couldn't be happier with that leveling kit. I also installed a scan gauge too. I mounted it up on the top left of my window, driver's mirror, so that I'm always looking out for those temperatures, as well as when I'm in the regen process. So I ceramic coated the wheels, also bought and installed new wheels. Those are coming along quite well. Love those wheels. Fuel Titans, I believe, at a +20 offset. All right, now I have 275 or 285 75 18 tires on those Cooper Discover AT3 XLTs. I've had them on the truck for about 2 weeks. No complaints. Those tires are great for initial impression. I've also installed the amp bed step that I use very often. Replaced the air filter. Rotated the tires when I did have my Nitto Ridge grapplers on there. Rotate those every 3,000 miles to get the most amount of life out of them, as well as conducting that chalk test. If you don't know what a chalk test is, go ahead and check this video out. It'll help extend the tire life and it'll help essentially let you know if the tire is getting the full amount of tread each revolution, so that you're utilizing the most amount of tire for a specific PSI. All right, so check that out if you don't know what I'm talking about. I also had an AEV Pro Cal to calibrate for the new tire size, so that my speedometer's on point and recalibrated, as well as the odometer. Installed a bunch of LED bulbs. Those have been doing great. None of them have blown out. I'm really happy with those new LEDs. I got them on the cargo slash the brake light, third brake light, the reverse lights, as well as the license plate LEDs. So those will look great. I also swapped a bunch of badges, the Cummins badges on the front doors. Swapped the 4x4 that's on the tailgate emblem. That's been swapped out for a gloss black. And yeah, pretty much removed the Ram 2500 emblems that are on the front doors. Now I just have that one Cummins badge on each one of those front doors. I also had 3 alignments in past 10,000 miles. That is a lengthy talk, so I'll let my previous video talk about that. I'll go ahead and post that in the top right. Check that out, why I had to do 3 alignments. Long story short, I ended up taking it to a diesel shop, and they took care of my problem of the front, essentially, I think, leaning too much front left. That would have killed my tire over time and suspension parts. And so glad I got that taken care of. So I just did a fuel filter replacement, maybe 20,800 miles, I think is when I just replaced my fuel filters. But I did that at the 10,000 mile mark. And so I plan on replacing my fuel filters every 10,000 miles. I feel like that's a big point of friction for these diesel motors, especially ours. And so I want to make sure that I take care of that. I don't pay for any of the labor. I do have a fuel filter video. If you want to check that one out, go ahead and check that out. But it's easy to just replace those fuel filters every 10,000 miles. It's $90. I do have the labor. Have fun with it. The miles per gallon average, I will say that I averaged 16.1 miles per gallon after I installed my Needle Ridge grapplers. That's still pretty good. Did quite a bit of highway on that, quite a bit of city as well. But now that I have these new tires, I'm sure that'll change, especially being out of the winter. 16.1 is pretty good. Can't complain with that. So those are the things that I have noted for my truck. Again, I have had no issues with the truck so far in the last 20,000 miles, other than those 2 recalls that have been done, or the 1 recall. I think I got the second one I gotta go take care of, but I'm gonna hold that off for a long time. It's the drag link recall. They gotta weld those nuts onto the drag link. I'm not a fan of that, so I'm just gonna hold off on that for quite a while. But guys, those are the major points that I've had in the last 20,000 miles, the last 10,000 miles, really. Everything has been taking care of itself. No issues. Oil levels are sitting fine. No oil leaks. I just did an oil analysis, so I'm waiting on the results to come back on that. And that's to analyze the last 10,000 miles that I've had, or 11,000 miles of that oil that I had. Just did an oil change too, so stay tuned for that. But if you have any questions or comments about these trucks, if you're iffy about getting the 2018, I know there's some on the lots. Feel free to leave any comments or questions down below. Let me know what you think of your truck. I know mine's pretty young. There's a lot of other young trucks out there. But until next time, ciao.
Perfect.